Hey y'all, it's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Ehmandah Ramsey. She is the founder of SheStories. She has a fantastic background. And before we started recording, we were being really funny and sarcastic. Can you say hi, Amanda?
Hi.
Sorry. We just have so much crazy stuff going on everywhere. I shouldn't say crazy, but we have to learn about. Some people think resilience is cheesy, but I don't. And I think some people might not use it properly, but Amanda has an amazing background and she's here because of her resilience. Correct.
Yes, yes, that's why I'm here, Bridget. That's what I'm here.
So what I know you've done speaking and coaching and you have your own podcast. What found, did created the SheStories? What is the story behind that?
Well, SheStories, I just love this community that I've been so blessed to create and curate over the years. Back in let's see, I don't even know, but in the 2000s, I was in a domestic violent relationship with my husband, and I had a 1-year-old daughter. And through that experience of being in DV and then thankfully surviving and leaving that relationship, I found myself in a place where I was dealing with a lot of guilt and shame and fear and judgment. So I never told anyone that I was in a DV relationship. Now, let me paint the picture for you. I'm a pastor's kid, great two-parent family home. I'm a musician at church, choir director, all that. Every single Sunday I would show up, but I would never share what I was going through. So I was walking around with this mask, but silently I was crying on the inside, dealing with my personal trauma and DV relationship. So after I left that relationship, I had a great mom, great sisters, but I didn't share with them because of, the fear and the judgment. But I felt that I wanted to create a safe space for women to be able to be heard, to be seen, to be validated. And that experience really showed me growing up in church, hearing testimonies, to be able to create this safe space for women to do the same thing, for them to find their freedom in sharing their truth. And I've learned through my journey over the last 10 years almost doing SheStories that it is a tool that can be used to really transform someone's mental health. So it's been a great journey for me. It's been healing for me. We often we start things because of our own personal pain, and that's the reason why I started it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And we're from that generation where we weren't expected to share. It was kind of shamed upon us to share
Hmm.
things that we're like, hit it. And that doesn't affect your mental health or your physical health.
Yeah. It totally does. I was going through some other changes in my life probably over the last couple of years, and I spoke to a therapist. And oftentimes, when we go through trauma, we go through painful experiences, we really don't think about the story. Maybe we talk about it and then we just pack it away in a little box and just take it out when necessary. But I was talking to a therapist and she was like, "Do you realize all of the challenging things that you went through and you never told anyone how resilient you are?" And I'm like, wow, I never thought about it. And I'm like, wow, I guess so, because sometimes we don't think very much of our story, especially me as a storyteller, because I hold space for people and I never, really think about my story that often, that deeply. Mm-hmm.
I totally am on the same page with you, right? We just don't talk about ourselves. But we're learning from hearing stories,
Yes.
from you. That's what I think is important. And that's why I started this podcast is we want to share more stories like this. Originally, I was just talking about cancer survivors. And that's kind of but then I'm like, everybody is dealing with something, right?
Yes.
And I did not deal with domestic dispute, that's the right word, that you did, but my mother did. And I think
Mm.
but she's a military wife. You know what I'm saying? People don't realize
Yes.
how tough that is. The spouses in general in the military are, I don't know if they're from the guys in the military or have PTSD, but they're just very, I don't know. I don't know why they're violent. It's very frustrating to be in that role. And I think that's why she became a psychologist, because it helped her. She's
Yeah.
probably going to be mad at me for sharing this. Anyway, but no, I'm kidding. But she was a good role model. And that's why people like you're a good role model for other women, because you're speaking up
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
giving a space for them in the She Story. So what form is it in?
Well, our storytelling nights, I really wanted to make sure that I included the mental health piece in our storytelling event. So it's a small, intimate event. We don't record it because we keep our stories safe and confidential, especially if we have some women that are dealing with DV or those that, may have a mental illness that they don't want to expose their personal life to their job or their employer.
Right.
So it's not recorded, but it's a small, intimate group of women, about 30 of us. We have a few women that share their stories, and then we have we call it our resident therapist that comes up at the end of the storytelling that helps the women process the stories that they've heard, help them deal with the triggers they may have experienced, but then also leave them with some tools and strategies to take with them after the story.
That's really cool. So it's almost like, is it a membership kind of in a way? No, you
No,
just,
no
okay.
membership, but that's a
That's
great
good.
idea, though.
Right. Right. Now I was just wondering when I was thinking about that, I've been involved with other groups, but it's usually like, it's just becoming more common to have
Mhm.
little smaller groups like that. I think 30 women is a good size because you don't want too many, because
Right.
then you're gonna have some people not speak up and just
Exactly.
hang in the background.
Right. And, I want to make it intimate enough where we can have personal connections with each other instead of, let's say, 150, 200 women in the room. Because think about it, when you go to, let's just use church as an example. If someone was going to a mega church, you got thousands of people, you sit next to different people every single Sunday. You may not be able to make those connections unless you are intentional about attending a small group. So in this situation, it is a small group, right? It's a small group of women where we're really being intentional about making connections and creating opportunities for connections.
I like that. That's really important. You're realizing you've learned from your experience. Like you said, you were a child of the, grew up around the church. So you
Mhm.
saw these different perspectives. And I think, I mean, this is really helpful. And how do the people know about it? I mean, how did you get this word out to people? How do they know about it? I'm just curious.
It's social media. I was kind of clueless, when I first started. I was like, I don't know. Every story that was told, like the first three storytelling events, were all based upon my personal experience. Me being an entrepreneur, me being a single mom, me going through DV. And it kind of evolved to, okay, this is going to be a community where we hold space for women that deal with their own pain, trauma, challenges. Um, but it just put it out there on social media. Hey guys, I'm starting this community. Who wants to be a storyteller? And, I just have these women that reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook, or they refer friends like, hey, this person would be a great person to be a storyteller. And it's just been really organic. Yeah.
I think organic is the best way. Ignore the algorithms. I really, right?
Right.
People,
The algorithm,
right?
she's,
Because it's not authentic at
it
all.
really isn't. It
And
isn't.
stories are just so important. They've been around for the entire thousands of years. And then for some reason, I think that's why I was asking about the format, like books helped a lot. And then now we've got the movies and now the social media clips. And I should say, I'm not on social media that much.
Hmm.
Like maybe it's because of my age, but I'm on Instagram. But I've noticed that you get more engaged on there if there's a reel now. Is that the right word?
Yes, that's
It's
right.
not just a picture. It started off as just photos, and
Hmm.
I'm not on TikTok. I think I've heard that's a great platform to learn,
Yes.
but I think it's
Mhm.
my generation. I think that's part of it. I don't even know. I joke that it's a foreign language to me to get on. I don't, I don't know how to use it properly. Um,
Yes.
my background is, publishing and communications,
Okay.
more from a corporate thing. And I think that's kind of why I always try to look perfect. And You understand, right?
Yes, yes, of course. I mean, and I think with social media too, it's like you got to find your home. You have to find the platform that works for you, for your audience. And for us, it's been Instagram
Awesome.
first, then Facebook, not so much TikTok.
I think that is the younger people, and I've had some good feedback on like LinkedIn. I think
Hmm.
because I have that corporate, you know,
Right.
background, but then I've seen YouTube is doing really pulling a
Yes.
lot of people in.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I only focus on certain content. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. Um,
Oh, you can definitely go
yeah,
down the rabbit hole.
YouTube. That's the. I think that's my understanding with TikTok too. You can go down rabbit holes.
Oh, yes.
I just like looking for stories that I can learn from, and that's really, even at my age, I'm still learning, and and I'm learning from the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, and we've got to be open to that.
Heck yeah. I mean, we're all learners, like we should be, life learners, and we can learn from everyone. Just I'm learning from some of the younger generations of folks on Instagram and even especially on TikTok. And what I really love about this generation is how they are very open to share about their challenges when it comes down to their mental health. And I think that has been very helpful. Social media has been very helpful in giving them a platform to share and then helping other people that watch it to know that they're not alone, that it's okay to share what you're going through and to not feel okay today, but tomorrow try again.
You're right. They're not
Mhm.
suppressing what we had to suppress, and
Exactly.
it was actually my sons that convinced me to blog, right? And
Wow.
I'm like, they're like, Mom, you're such a good writer. And I've always liked writing, but I was afraid to put it out there, man. I don't know why.
Hmm.
And it has to do with the generation I grew up in, having to be perfect. And I think some of I don't know, I'm going off the tangent here about the younger girls need to understand what the older women have gone through.
Yeah,
They need
right.
to learn from us. And I'm not saying their lives were perfect, but I'm very fortunate, even though my mother had her, you know, she was married 3 times by the time I was 17. Okay. All,
Wow.
all military guys. So that affected me.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
And I'm the middle child. I was actually pretty normal because most middle kids are the wild ones. I was not. I think because I had a younger sister and I was her mother kind of, but I
Mm.
learned from her. I've just observed what she was doing and I couldn't judge her because I didn't know what she was dealing with. But
Wow.
again, that's when I knew I'm not going to be married to anybody in the military because I saw that. I mean,
Hmm.
the people that join the military, they want to do the right thing, right? And I
Yeah.
think, but people don't realize what's going on behind the stress that they have to deal with. And just any marriage, just being a parent
Hmm.
is tough. I'm sure. And you were a single mom. That was really hard. I'm sure. Took a lot of extra work.
It did. I had a really great supportive family, where my dad and my brothers kind of stepped in to be that father figure when
Oh,
needed
good.
for my daughter. And just I had a really great support, and I know a lot of single parents don't have that, but I can't say that I, didn't have any struggles and challenges. Of course that I did, but I think that my situation was a little bit different because I had a really great support system.
That's good that you're acknowledging that. And that's why it's so important to have family, family and friends. My mom always says
Hmm.
is what helps you get through it all. You can't do it alone. I Some people think they're gonna succeed on anything. If they do it their way. Like you can be yourself, right? But you still need feedback
Yes.
and learning from others. And I totally love the idea how you said to be yourself. I think that is key to living your life that you want.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, Frank Sinatra said I did it my way, and he sure did do it his way.
I remember listening to that music as a kid. but then I grew up in the South, most of the time in the South. I was really into R&B. I think
Okay.
because being close to it, I grew up mostly near Fort Benning, which is by Columbus, Georgia, just south of Atlanta.
Okay.
There's a lot of musicians in the Atlanta area. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why I like the diversity. I think that's important too,
Oh
Amanda,
yeah.
to help you get through things because you don't want to be in a bubble.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I think about the stories that I've held, the storytelling nights, and the women that I've seen, all from diverse backgrounds, all, different skin tones, different marital statuses. There's just everyone has been different. It's been a diverse group of people, and we all have learned from each other. We have all empowered and inspired each other. And I believe diversity is great. We need it.
We definitely do. It just helps you understand different perspectives. You have more empathy.
Hmm.
Uh, it builds your empathy strength. Is that the right word?
Yeah, and especially, as me as a leader, as an entrepreneur, it equips me to serve others better when I have experiences with different or diverse groups of people. It helps me to serve better because I can be multifaceted, so to speak, in the areas of my expertise, and being with different women, different men helps me to serve well.
Right, and you'll able to ask the right questions to make
Hmm.
them think. It makes you more curious,
Hmm.
and I think that is a great, I should say tool, but it's something that's helpful to get through life.
It
I
really is.
I think being curious. I don't mean like drawing on. I meant like looking at the situation,
Hmm.
and I think that's why a lot of doctors are probably very curious. That's why they got into that field in the first
Hmm.
place.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
And did you have, just curious, did you have mentioned a brother. Did you have any sisters at all or?
Yeah. So I have brothers and sisters. It's
Okay.
six of us total. I'm the baby of the family.
Okay.
They
You're
think,
lucky. No.
yeah, pretty much. You never got treated like you got everything you wanted. You got this. We got hand-me-downs. Hey, it's not my fault. I didn't ask to be born. I
It's
didn't
funny.
ask to be born in this line of babies. Like, hey, just I'm here. I'm sorry.
That's kind of how it is. Someone asked me that before, like my upbringing, right? And I am the middle child, and people think middle children are the wild ones.
Hmm.
Maybe they're more curious, but I think I was trying to be instinctively to help my sister because she was younger and all this crazy stuff going on, and my brother was older.
Hmm.
But I'm fortunate. I think my brother protected me more than I realized at the time.
Mm.
He was very protective. He gotten, we were wild. You were probably the same way, walking the streets without having to worry about, when the lights come on, you go in. That's kind of how I grew up.
Exactly.
I actually think that's actually good. That's just we you want some you don't want to be overprotective of your kids.
Hmm.
It, I'm probably a little bit of both because I'm a mom of boys, so I worry about what they're. I mean, they're men. They're men now,
Right.
but there's a joke about mom of boys don't live as long.
Really? Oh my
So
gosh.
they just do very dangerous things,
Mm.
whereas girls are more emotional or hormonal. Is that the right word?
I could see that. I have a daughter, so
You understand? And
yes.
I was meant to be a mom to boys, I guess. And I think it probably had to do with being raised. My brother raised me, if you think about it.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
But we were alone all the time. And my father was never around. He was gone in
Hmm.
Vietnam you know, and other stuff. And my mom tried to go back to school to get her PhD. But it's it's just, I don't know, amazing stories that are out there. And I'm glad you're focusing and helping the women. 'Cause
Yes.
women do need to be supported. And I love, I don't know, I just love connecting with other perspectives. Because I'm learning, and it makes you appreciate what you have.
Yeah, it really does. And like we talked about earlier, it's just like you're learning about other people, different perspectives, really developing your empathy for those that are in need or those that we need to hold space for. Um, and it's just been a beautiful experience for me because I'm not only able to use, my personal stories, but the stories that I've heard over the years. So when I meet someone, male or female, in the community, I can reflect back to a story that I've heard. So I can say, I haven't been through what you've been through, but I do have someone that I was connected with that went through the same or similar situation, and this is how they were able to get through. So I can offer that as a helpful tool for them.
It made me think of they're not alone in their journey. And I
Hmm.
think that is so the support that we need. And we need I should say the word tribe. It's kind of like a tribe. Back in the old days, you had a little
Yeah.
tribe and we supported each other. And you're going to have a leader. Everybody should be, not everybody wants to be a leader, but you have to walk the talk too.
That is true. That is true. And I think a lot of times, how we talked about how we don't, sometimes share what we're going through. A lot of times we feel like we're the only ones that are going through this. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm the only one. Nobody knows how I feel. Because a lot of times, as women, we don't share our truth. We hold on to the messy middle and we don't share it. And I get it. Sometimes it's not the right time to share it or we're still processing. But it's such a relief when you hear someone say, "Hey, I'm going through that too." I'm like, "Oh my God, you too?" Oh, well, no, I got somebody to talk to. Oh my God.
It just makes you have that. Right. People don't realize how important connections are. They're just what keeps your stuff together. I almost said a curse word. It helps you keep it together.
It really does. It's like, hey, I might be down today. You can hold me up. You're down tomorrow. I can hold you up. We can be that support for each other and help each other to get through. It's so needed.
I
So
think
needed.
that's right. And that is why I think in some communities like churches are so important, right?
Hmm.
You grew up in that environment. And I think that's why I feel like I felt hardship because of the downside of being a military, I call it a brat. We moved
Hmm.
around so much because you didn't have some of the same long-term friends, but I did eventually stay really connected to some. I don't have like a huge thousands of friends, but I have some. You want some that are going to be there for you, and no matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter how old you are, you still need new friends and
Hmm.
connecting while you're still here.
Hmm.
Make a difference, and I think that is what you're doing, Amanda.
Oh, thank you. Thank
What is one takeaway you think for the listeners from them? What is about what you're doing? Your
you.
purpose. Your purpose. Is that the right word?
Yeah, my purpose. I think when it comes down to storytelling and what you have experienced or going through in life currently, that you don't need a platform to share. It doesn't have to be on YouTube, TikTok, a blog, on a stage. It can be a personal conversation. And I just want people to remember that is that just because maybe your story wasn't as messy and crazy as mine's was, your story is still valid. Your story still needs to be heard. And I often say that your past can change someone's future. So just always remember that your story matters.
I love that. That is very, very important. So, where can people learn more about you, Amanda? How can they reach out?
Sure. Well, definitely can check me out on my website, amandaramsey.com, and then on all socials, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Amanda Ramsey. And find me. I'm here. And then you can also check out the Dope Confidence podcast. That's available on YouTube and Spotify.
And for those that are listening, I'll include the links in the description just in case you're driving. Right? You can go back later with the
Yeah.
description.
Please don't look up now while you're driving, okay?
Thank you so much, Amanda. I love your sense of humor and what you're doing for others.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. I appreciate you. I had such a great time having a conversation, just laughing and being sarcastic beforehand. It was all great for me.
We got to set the tone, right?
That's right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.